LeBron James talked about, if the coach calls a play, I can, and he said most NBA players cannot do this, I can say, oh, they've changed their alignment. So instead of running it to the right, let's just invert it and we'll run the play to the left.
Yeah, that's
and
like perfect pitch.
Right, and most players would need it drawn out for them. This is what it looks like if we do it to the left instead of the right. Can you take the sound you hear in your head and manipulate it? Let's make it slower. Let's make it faster. Let's make it more reggae. Let's make it more rock.
Let's change the key. Let's make that chord minor. Let's do, what if we, instead of horns, let's try strings. Yeah. Playing all that in your head before you actually play it out here. Yeah, absolutely.
The Touré show. Okay, though. The Touré show. Okay, though.
That might be the best question I've ever been asked.
You're a phenomenal person. I mean, you legendary.
I am a fan of you, my brother.
Eric Benet has been a friend of mine for many years. So excited to finally have him on the show. He's got a new single out called Something We Can Make Love To. He's got an album called Eric Benet Duets. We talk about the beginning of him singing, the first girl he was with, how he picked up Halle Berry, and more. Let's get into it. It's my man Eric Benet, a fantastic singer and a great storyteller on Touré Show. Eric.
Yeah.
I am so thrilled to have you here.
The right Eric.
Because some people have questioned that we're two different people.
All the time.
You get it too?
In the airport, I've gotten it. I'm like, when are you going to come back on MSNBC? I'm like, I've never, they haven't asked. I know who they're talking about, but yeah, man, I get it. And so especially if I grow my hair
a little bit more. Yeah. The moment that killed me, because my mom was like, you look like Eric Benet. Mom doesn't think you look like any. You look like special, unique, flat. My mom was like, yo, you heard about this guy? Yeah, I know Eric, Mom. But many years ago, when you were married to Halle, I was doing a story on Halle Berry. We went to pick up India from her play. She was in 5th grade. And she says hi. And then she goes, don't you think he looks like Daddy? Assuming she'd go be like, no, nobody looks like India.
India, of course, said,
India was like, no, she said yes.
What?
Yes, he actually does. And I'm like, I can't believe the daughter was like, yeah, he does look like my dad. I'm like, wow. So, but it's two different people, y'all.
Are you sure your daddy is your daddy? Because I know my daddy was doing some things. We found out we had another sister. And you might
you
be
have an extra sister. I do too.
Yo, that's a crazy story.
Older than you or younger than you?
A couple of years, 1 year old. That's a crazy story. I should tell you that story. I should tell you now.
Tell me.
Oh, I kind of ruined the story because the big reveal was that she was my sister. But anyway, my freshman year in high school, and I go for freshman orientation, and they have some of the sophomores in Milwaukee, born and raised in Milwaukee. And they have some of the sophomores like show the freshmen around, and I ran into one of my cousins who was also a sophomore. I was like, who is that girl right there?
Sophomore.
Yeah, she was like, oh, that's Michelle. I was enamored. She was just gorgeous to me. And I was like a little, what are you as a freshman, 14-year-old? I wouldn't have known what to say to her, but I was just like crushing on this girl. And every time we passed in the hallway, I'd be like, hi, Michelle. And then finally the next year, my sophomore year, her junior year, I was a pretty good artist, like a visual artist, painting in school. So I was taking her, the next year up art class, and we were in the same class together. So I got to actually talk to her. And then she thought I was funny and cute, but not in a, high school attracted to you way, because I was a year younger, and that would have been social suicide for her. So one day, I was like, I want to ride on your bus home. Like, I want, what bus do you take? You take the 60? Today I'm going to ride the 60. I'm like, I just wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
So I rode the bus home with her and went to her house, met her mother, and something interesting happened once I got that close to her. It's like the attraction, that little crush thing went away.
When you met Mom?
It wasn't that I met Mom. It was just that she was more than just like this young junior in high school that I had a crush on visually. I got a chance to talk to her and vibe with her. And from that point on, we were just like really good friends. You know, next year she's a senior. Next year she graduates. I'm a senior. A couple years go by, and I'm in college, and my dad develops cancer, and he gathers all of us, my siblings, and my mom, literally around his deathbed, and he's like, before I move on, I want to let you guys know something. That you have a sister. He was like, some years ago, your mother and I, we were going through this thing, and your sister is Michelle, and I had
the girl I like.
The girl I like, and I hadn't seen Michelle in probably 3 or 4 years at that point. But the next day. Michelle was at my parents' house hanging out with her dad, who was my dad. And I was just like, man, this is some crazy shit right here, bro.
Changed the relationship a little bit?
Well, the relationship, like, it was like...
Now we can be friends?
It went from friends to like, wow, she's my sister now. But if that wasn't strange enough, the really interesting thing was almost that Back to the Future moment when Marty McFly was in the car with his mom, and they kissed. Although we never kissed, it was like I did have that experience of like, wow, once we're hanging out, it's not a crush that I feel for you. It's like, it's something else. You
felt the family vibe even though you didn't know.
Very strange. But it made perfect sense.
Her mom must have known.
What was your
dad's name?
Lawrence. Larry.
Right, her mom must have been like,
her mom knew.
Lawrence's kid is here.
Because me coming over was a surprise. Like I said, I'm going to ride home with you.
Was she not like, oh, hi, Eric?
In retrospect, it was a very polite hello. And then I was probably over Michelle's house for about an hour.
Because I would think as a parent, she would be a little nice, polite, professional.
She was.
But a little more friendly to you than any other kid, because I kind of know you.
Yeah.
Because I know your dad.
Yeah. It was the opposite. It was like, well, it's really nice to meet you, Eric. And then she went somewhere in the house, and I didn't see her the rest of the time. In retrospect, I'm like, damn, she must have been somewhere like, Lord, should I go down there and talk to that boy? Should I shut up? Jesus, tell me what to,
tell me what's the right thing to do.
Right. She said hello, and I didn't see her again. So
now, around this time,
yeah,
you're thinking about singing.
Oh, yeah.
And Dad is like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, my dad was a really interesting guy. My dad was, born and raised in Mobile, Alabama, in the most racist, segregated places in the country, but he was like a cultured guy. He loved classical music, and he loved science, and he loved I'm named after one of his favorite authors, Stephen Vincent Benet.
Okay.
So
what did he do, your dad?
He was a detective. He did what he
was a cop.
He was a cop for the city of Milwaukee, and he took the job that he could get. But he was always very cultured, and so he had a huge classical music collection.
Oh wow!
And I would just be, I would have my headphones on, lost in all the classical music. That was my dad. So, but Dad really wanted to vicariously, me be this scholar that he wanted to be.
Okay.
He wanted to or aspired to be.
Toni Morrison is my favorite writer. No one tells the story of African Americans the way she does. She talks about our beauty, our pain, our joy, and she does it in a brilliant, poetic way. Perhaps her best novel, Beloved. It's an incredible story, inspired by the true story of an escaped woman who had been enslaved, and when caught and about to be returned to slavery, she chose to slit the throats of her young children rather than see them become slaves. That's a deep kind of love. This book will be seared in your memory forever. It is amazing. This is one of the great novels of the century, written by one of the greatest writers of the century. Celebrate your freedom by reading Beloved. But it's hard for, let's say, straight people who are not, and by that I mean like people who are not artistic.
Yeah.
Right? He had an artistic part of him.
He loved art.
He loved
right.
art and he appreciated it, but his work was straight work, not artistic creative
No,
work.
you're absolutely correct in that.
And a lot of folks who do not do creative work, let's say creative work instead of straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't understand maybe when their children are like, well, I want to do creative work. And it scares them because they're like, well, how are you going to make money at that?
Right.
As singing, painting, rapping, making movie, how are you going to act? How are you going to make money at that?
I'll take you a step further than that. The children who are, their offspring who are artistic children oftentimes seem like these constantly mentally distracted kids because we are. I remember, like,
But you're not distracted. You're focused on something else.
You're exactly right. It's like I was, I managed to, make it through high school and to appease my parents. I went to college for like a year. But learning, simple things like learning about something that I'm absolutely not interested in when I have string arrangements playing loudly in the back of my head, it's like, this is crazy. Like,
calculus.
Right. Right.
What is the value of this?
Right. Well, I need to figure out what this is going on up here.
But you were writing music in your mind?
I remember hearing, and it was probably because of me spending so much time listening to my dad's classical music. I remember being 10 years old, hearing string arrangements.
Wow.
That, that I would realize as I'm listening to them that they were original. Like, I didn't really realize that I was a songwriter until my cousin George, who was like 4 years older than me, who was a really good guitar player and a keyboard player. I think he heard me. What did he do? He heard me singing something at one point, and he was like, "What is that?" And this was like, this is my cousin who's like 4 years older than me. He's not gonna hang out with his 10-year-old little cousin.
Yeah.
But we were somewhere at some family event, and I'm just singing something, and I'm like, what is it? I don't know. It's just something I made up. And he's like, you made that up? And then we started. So then he was like, why don't you come over to the house? Because at that point, he had like some little ancient little recording device, and we would start writing songs. My cousin George.
You started in George's room.
Yeah, at George. Yeah. And then we brought in my sister a couple years later. It was just, at this point, it was a hobby that George and I would do. We would write songs. I would come up with something. He would come up with something. And then by the time like I said, I felt like I went to college just to satisfy my parents for a year until I just couldn't do it anymore. George called me and he's like, yo, there's a band in Milwaukee and they're looking for a lead singer. You want to come try out? So George was already playing in the band. And I went and tried out, and my sister Lisa tried out too because they needed a female singer, and we both got in. Now we were part of this corporate band in the Midwest called Gerard, and Gerard would do the shitty gigs, the weddings. We would do,
You're a wedding singer.
We would do whatever gigs we could get, but we would do, mainly what we would do were like club gigs.
Okay.
We were a top 40 band, Yeah.
Who taught you how to sing?
Being the youngest in a group, growing up in a house with 3 sisters and a brother who all
Everybody can sing.
Everybody sang. Like my sister Audrey, the oldest, we would literally deconstruct. Like, do you remember the Silvers?
Sure.
We would deconstruct the Silvers harmonies or the Carpenters harmonies or the Jackson 5. We would deconstruct them.
Early 70s stuff, yeah.
Right. And my sister Audrey, well, actually all my siblings.
You are one of 5?
I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay. And Audrey's the oldest.
Audrey's the oldest. Audrey, she was usually the ringleader because she could play the keyboard pretty well. And she would be like, okay, here's a soprano note. Okay, Eric. And before my voice changed, I would do the soprano and whoop, whoop, whoop. And so I just grew up developing this strong sense of harmony, blending, and arrangement.
Playing with Audrey and your
Audrey.
brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and then playing on Audrey's keyboard and realizing that I could figure out some chords.
But you said you're heavy listening to the classical.
I was.
But at some point, you must have gotten heavy into listening to the R&B.
Absolutely.
So who were you listening to that you're like, sing like him, sing like her?
The usual suspects that you would think with most R&B artists, Stevie Wonder was...
You don't sing like Stevie Wonder.
I don't sing. I don't think I sing like Stevie Wonder, but Stevie Wonder has very distinctive voicings in his chord structure that, you know, for whatever reason, just like resonated with my soul.
Yes.
And it was in conjunction to his unique way of singing. It was Donny Hathaway. It was Gino Vanelli. It was Bobby Caldwell. It was...
When you talk about Caldwell and Hathaway, now I'm like, okay, now I can see.
Now you can see it. Yeah. It was Mel Torme. It was Ella Fitzgerald. It was Shaka Khan. It was Shaka Khan solo, but it was mainly like Rufus featuring Shaka Khan days.
That was the first.
And yeah, man, I think that that really laid the groundwork for my whole musical. Like when I'm writing, I will tend to go there in some hodgepodge of everybody.
So wait, 19, 20, 21 wants to be in music. When did you say, yo, everybody thinks I'm really good looking? Because I know there had to be a point where you were like, everywhere I go, they're like, you're really good looking. Maybe I can make use of this.
Well, I don't know if, okay, I'm going to take it even further back. So to the pre-Michelle days. So I always had like this little, you know, being the baby of the family. Like I always knew how to crack a joke and make people laugh, and I could make the girls laugh when I was like 14 and 15. But I was always really short. I was just like this really minuscule dude. And it was junior high school where I remember I had a crush. Man, I had a crush on this girl named Laura Oldenburg.
Okay.
But Laura Oldenburg's best friend was Vicky Stanton. Now, none of these girls, all of these girls would go for like the more athletic, you know, typical guys, and I was almost like a little cute pet who would come around and make them laugh. So I decided, we had a talent show. I decided at the school, all right, nobody knew I could sing. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sing a song at the talent show.
For real.
Like for real.
And you already knew I could sing.
I knew I could sing. Sidebar, because I knew like in music class, even when I was like in 5th grade, and Lucia and Luna and India would tell me this too at the same age. It's like, Daddy, how come all the kids are singing the wrong notes? You know, and it's like, I know.
Wait, how old?
Like, it all hit them around the same age, like 6, 7 years old. It's like.
You knew at 6, 7 years old?
I knew at 6 or 7 years old. It's like with the little girl singing behind me, it's like, why are you a whole half step like under the, like you don't hear the, dun, 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 you don't hear that? So it's like, I knew.
So you had good pitch.
I had
perfect
good pitch. I had good pitch. I think I have relative pitch.
You have a good ear. You had a good ear from a very young age.
Yeah. But wait, I started talking about something. So I decided to do the talent show. And I sang Lionel Richie's Truly.
Oh yeah.
I think that was a song. And after I said, it was like a Disney movie. You know, it was like the whole audience erupted. It's like, what? And the next day, Vicky Stanton and Laura Oldenburg were waiting by my locker, following me around all day. And I was like, wait a minute. This is some power right here, boy. So.
But that's a response to your singing, which is great. But the question was, because you are known for being this great looking guy. And there's some point where in the teenage or early 20s, you start to go, it's not just one person, two people think I'm good looking, but like everywhere I go, people are like, oh yeah, he's really good looking. Like and you're trying to be in entertainment. It was definitely helpful. At some point, you must have been like, and it's not egotistical. Yeah. But it would be ridiculous to not say, like, I started to notice that everybody thought I was good looking. And how do I use that to my advantage?
I don't think there was this moment where I was like, damn, everybody's telling me I'm looking good. It's probably because everybody said all my siblings look good. So I thought it was just like something people say to people or something people say to, and I don't think I realized that I was a relatively attractive dude until I was 19.
Okay. What happened?
Another weird story.
Weird stories.
Yeah. So I used to hang out with my cousin Ralph all the time, like after school. And I went to University of Milwaukee for like a hot minute. And I went to the barbershop to get my hair cut. And as I'm getting my hair cut, there's a poster of a Schlitz beer poster with this unbelievably cute girl, with the baseball bat and the Daisy Dukes and the baseball hat and a Schlitz cooler, a Schlitz beer. And as I'm getting my hair cut, I'm just staring at this girl the whole time thinking, damn, that girl is bad. So much so that by the time I got to my cousin's house after the haircut, I was like, man, I'm sitting there getting my hair cut and that's this poster. I can't get it out of my mind. It was this girl. She had the face and the lips and the ass and the butt. And he was like, oh, was it a Schlitz ad? And my cousin modeled. I'm like, yeah. And she was on first base, right? I'm like, yeah. Oh, that's Gina. I'm like, this person is a real person that you know? It's like, yeah, she models with me. And so I'm like, when can I possibly meet this person? So he's like, oh, I'll throw a party and I'll just have her come by. So he threw a party and I was there and Gina was there and she came with her boyfriend. And this is when I kind of thought, wow, I must be kind of attractive. Because Gina was posted up with her boyfriend, but she just kept looking. She kept looking at your boy. And I would crack jokes. They weren't particularly funny jokes, but she would just be like, oh, you're so funny. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not that damn funny. I must be kind of crude to pull you. I didn't pull her at that point, but long story short.
No.
Right.
Really?
She was my first.
Your first what?
That.
Everything?
At 19.
What?
My first everything.
Wow.
Ooh, I just put Gina on blast. Dang. I'm sorry. Oh, Gina, I'm sorry. But because we're actually friends now. But man, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a story.
So I'm thinking, I must got something. Because my comedic skills ain't definitely on the Eddie Murphy level.
Not that funny.
Right.
So where did you start thinking, oh, I could sing professionally?
I think it was, when I knew that we joined Gerard, and I don't know, it was just this feeling. Gerard, by the way, they owned a little recording studio. So when we weren't performing, George and my sister Lisa and I, we would use the studio to just start writing songs. And we started slipping some of our original songs in the top 40 set, and they started to really affect people. People started like asking for these songs, and be like, wait, you mean we just played Bobby Brown's My Prerogative, but you want to hear like the little song I wrote again? So I think at that point I started thinking like this could be like a thing. Eventually we were signed, my sister and I, we were signed to EMI.
Because you had a little buzz from the beginning. Best New Artist nominations, and people were like, who's this guy? What's going on? Right? Some artists takes time to bubble up. You were like right in there.
Well, there was I think there's a reason for that, identifying that artistic identifying what my thing is, because that process, some artists won't make it because they never quite figure it out.
Who they are.
Right. And how to communicate that. So I think when Lisa and I were signed to EMI, it was a deal that we were plucked from Milwaukee, and we spent months and months in Los Angeles, which was quite the culture shock. And we really didn't have a whole lot of autonomy on that record. We did some of our songs, but it was more so you got to get with this producer and this producer and this producer. And the album was not successful. It didn't go. So I think what I did at that point was I realized two things happened. My sister Lisa realized I'm done with this music business stuff. My sister Lisa is a very pragmatic person, and she was like, "Wait, you mean I quit my job, my good job, and I spent like 6 months in LA working on this record, and then the label halfway throws it out, and then they drop us? I'm done." But me,
What's she do now?
She chills most of the time now because she can. But she really helps out with our with our niece and nephew's children, helps them out a lot with their daycare, and she's incredible. But what it did for me was just galvanize I have to figure this out. I have to figure out what's going on. So I realized that if I was going to have another shot at this whole music thing, I have to take control of the direction. I have to know what resonates with me musically, and without any compromise, pursue that. And you mentioned earlier that you could hear the Bobby Caldwell, and you could kind of hear the Gino Vanelli, and you could hear so I just realized, like, I'm gonna make a record that reflects the music that made me fall in love with music. And then that's why I named my first album True to Myself. So I think that determined creative statement was really underscored by A, getting dropped for the first time, and then B, taking a moment to just be like, yo, I gotta figure this out, because most people don't get one shot. I might get two. Let me make this just the way I envision it.
And it came out the way you heard it in your head?
It came out the way I heard it. I remember Allison Ball, who gave me my first deal at EMI, and by this point, she was now an executive at Warner Brothers. I submitted, which was a demo of all of these songs that my cousin George and our friend DeMonte and I, we did this demo of a solo project for me. Thought it was a demo. It started making the rounds at Warner Brothers, and they were like, this ain't no damn demo. This the record. And so my demo that I was like, maybe some of these songs might work or this direction might work for an album, True to Myself, was like that demo that a lot of it I did in my bedroom with my cousin George. And
Wow.
yeah.
You love that more than the acting and television movie work? Which you love more?
Well, it's clearly the music is effortless. I think the music is something that's just always playing. So it's like when it comes to songwriting, it's just all I got to do is be still. And I'll be like, oh, that's kind of dope. Ooh, what's that? Let me grab that. But with when I started writing stories, that took a little bit more effort. It took a little bit more effort to not be so predictable. I wrote an original short story that got turned into a TV series, and I think in that creative process, knowing that it's almost a foreign arena for me, I don't want to be contrived. I don't want it to come off like, oh, that's just like that story and that story and that story. When musically, I'm naturally not contrived, I think.
You like telling stories. You've already told a bunch today.
Mm-hmm.
When you are writing a song,
Mm-hmm.
is it the same sort of thing of like I'm telling a story?
I think so. I think so. When I'm writing songs, I'm seeing a movie.
Okay.
And it's the movie is inspired, if not by actual events, but that little 3.5 minute, 4 minute movie is inspired by a fantasy of mine. I think some of my best love songs that I write are when I'm lonely and I don't have anybody, because if I'm particularly lonely and just or feeling lonely, I fantasize about what this perfect love would be. And then once I start playing that movie in my head, the soundtrack automatically just starts playing. So
the creative muscle for music comes automatically.
Automatically.
Like you set a tone. Like we're going there toward
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this could, right?
Yes. I'm gonna envision what I would feel like just getting over a heartache, but I want to dance. And then I would imagine what that would look like. Where would I go? And then in my mind's eye, once I get to the place,
LeBron James talked about, if the coach calls a play,
mm-hmm.
I can, and he said most NBA players cannot do this, I can say, oh, they've changed their alignment. So instead of running it to the right, let's just invert it and we'll run the play to the left.
Yeah, that's
and
like perfect pitch.
Right, and most players would need it drawn out for them. This is what it looks like if we do it to the left instead of the right. Can you take the sound you hear in your head and manipulate it? Let's make it slower. Let's make it faster. Let's make it more reggae. Let's make it more rock.
Let's change the key. Let's make that chord minor. Let's do, what if we, instead of horns, let's try strings. Yeah. Playing all that in your head before you actually play it out here. Yeah, absolutely.
And that lets you have the freedom to explore it in the mind before you spend studio time on it.
Yeah, you can do it with AI now, though.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, dude, AI is at a point, I don't do it. It's almost like a sacrilegious thing now. But I mean, the way technology is now, it's like you can sing a melody and you can have the AI turn it into an orchestra. Or you can be like, let me see what this sounds like as a sax. Or, it's just, there's so many shortcuts now.
I'm definitely concerned about the future of art in a world where there are folks who are like, oh, we can just get AI to, and where it's enhancing what we want to do as creators. That's great. But sometimes people want to subvert.
I don't think My personal opinion is the priceless commodity of human expression. We still got a shelf life on us. I mean, I think
so. Yeah.
I think AI is going to do a great job of, hey, write me a country song about my pickup truck is red and the tire's flat. In 5 seconds, you'll have that song. But I think there's another element that isn't in the computer code.
You know, my wife said to me, you know my wife, she said, if you put like 9 frames of your Instagram into AI or ChatGPT and say, I want you to roast B based on my
Really?
Instagram feed. And it was really funny and sharp. And I was like, yo, that was funny, but also painful. Like when the
Scary.
roast gets too real, like that was funny.
And
but
you seen this?
we did it. We did it for hers and we did it for mine. It was hysterical, but it was also like, ouch. Like the joke is too real.
It's ouch because it's too real, but it's also ouch for writers
Yeah.
who are like,
Yeah,
well,
damn. I didn't know the computer could be funny.
Right.
Like really funny. So, okay, all right. I would be remiss. The audience is like, we want to know, how did he pick up Halle Berry? I can't not ask about that.
Yes, you can. Well, I guess that's an interesting story. This was right after my first solo album came out. And like you said, I mean, I was kind of like this bubbling under artist. And I would do gigs. I started to do gigs all over the world, which was pretty crazy for somebody who's from southeastern Wisconsin and ain't never been nowhere. And I started doing gigs, a lot of gigs at some cool spots in LA. And the House of Blues was a pretty dope spot back in the day.
Rockin', yeah.
On Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah,
there was some dope artists, right?
Yeah.
And I would do a show and there would be Magic Johnson out there. There would be all these, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of huge black celebrities at the time would be like, oh, this new young R&B dude, Eric Benet. She had come to a few gigs. And it had been, my band members would come back and they'd be like, bruh, man, you know who was out there, bruh? And it was one night where, I said, well, shoot, ask her if she wants to, after the show, come back and say hi. So it was actually I'm pretty sure it was a House of Blues gig. She just came back and said hi one day. And we kind of stayed in touch. It wasn't no immediate thing at that point, but we stayed in touch over the next year or so.
How'd you get it to, let's go on a date?
It was very much like a friend thing for a while. And I'm not gonna say who she was dating at the time, but she would talk about what was happening. And
Oh, you had to listen to the story of
yeah, I was the guy who was listening to the stories of the frustrations for a while, I think, or the this, that, and the other, until that situation wasn't happening anymore. And then I happened to need, I was at this point, I had started the process of writing and producing the album, which was going to be like my biggest album at that point, my second album, A Day in the Life. And so I was in LA a lot. And one time I went to LA and we went to this, I asked her, hey, let's get together. And we went to this, there used to be this really dope margarita spot on La Cienega called, I think it was called Lolita's.
Okay.
That was it. We went and we chatted and we vibed and we had martinis or whatever we were drinking. I know you're going to try to get more details. And I'm like, man, come on, man.
No, I mean, I like the story. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely people like, oh my God.
Yeah,
how you do that?
yeah, how did that go down?
How you do that? For sure. Hell yeah.
It really wasn't like a I think it really did happen relatively naturally. Like I think she came to a gig because, I was a particular musical vibe back then.
Yeah.
And we met that way. And then we were friends for like a solid year after that.
You sound like Eddie Murphy. Just sing. Just sing.
Hercules.
The girls will love you if you just sing. Everybody who comes to the show, I talk to them about what it means to be Black and how it shows up in the work. And I think the R&B and soul music you've done is very much part of the tradition and comes out of what we've been seeing and hearing from our beloved singers for decades and decades. Yeah. But so as an artist, what does being Black mean to you? Where does it show up in your work?
I think I'm more often than I realized I am influenced by my mother and father and their resilience and their love. And it comes through in my music in a not so direct way. Like I'm often, how do I say this? It's like when that first record deal like didn't happen, and I knew that I had to succeed. I think a lot of the fuel or motivation for that was a few things. By that point, by the time I lost my first record deal, my father passed away. That whole thing happened. And I knew that he had this, and I knew what kind of a life he and my mom had. My mom would tell me stories about how when they were like teenagers and even younger, like 12 and 13 years old, they would get chased by the KKK in Alabama. And I don't know, they would tell me all these stories, and I would think about like these insurmountable odds that they were still these loving, giving, incredible people. So I think with my music, I always feel them right behind me. Like, use your voice, say it how you want to do it. Use this opportunity of creative freedom to be the strongest and the most realist you are. So I think, and then I know this is a roundabout way of answering your question, but then I think about all of the mainly African-American artists who had to also go through so many of those hurdles just to be accepted on a stage with white musicians who couldn't hold a candle to their talent. And I think in that kind of indirect way, it fuels my desire to make sure that my musical statement is pure and true to me and my ancestry. Yeah.
Yeah, the connection to the folks who came before us and the responsibility that I think some of us feel toward the folks who came before us, right? And I have to be great or free or whatever it is because as we know, we're standing on their shoulders.
And it's amazing to me, especially in this political climate, how people can with such glib ease throw away their voice or throw away the opportunity to fight for the greater collective. It's like forget about the last 100 years of human trafficking and torture and cruelty that our people were subjected to. What about the stories your mom and dad told you, bro? Does that mean anything to you? So yeah, man, it's just like, I mean, I'm gonna use my low voice and I'm gonna or use my freedom to to try to propel this experiment along, I think.
You were in Glitter, right?
Yeah, I was robbed. I should have gotten the Oscar, man. Come on, man. That was a fun story too.
Tell me a story.
That was I'm doing a gig in Jamaica, and my manager, Mariah Carey's at that time, she's massive. Well,
Gigantic.
she's still a massive star. So my manager calls me. I'm chilling in my room, and my manager calls me, and he's like, "In about 15 minutes, Mariah Carey's gonna call you." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, nigga, you lying." So I'm like, "Yeah, all right, I'll see you at the bar." And I'm chilling in the room, and my phone rings, and I answer, "Hi, Eric." "Yes, it's Mariah." And I'm like, "Oh my." So anyway, she asked me to be in this movie, and I mean, I was like, "You had me." It was
At Hello.
right,
Oh, that's that whole story?
pretty much. And then
Because
Yeah.
when you're making it,
yeah,
did you know?
I wasn't that it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
Okay. In the defense of Glitter, where's the camera?
Oh, Lord. In defense of Glitter.
Okay. In the defense of Glitter.
Sentences that have never been uttered before in human
Was it A Star Is Born? Was it Citizen Kane? No. But it wasn't that bad, was it? Okay, you're like, yeah, that shit stuck. But I was only there for
I don't blame you.
Yeah. I was only there for like 4 days.
Right. No, it's not your fault.
And she was an angel when I was on set. She was dating it was a Latin singer who spoke no English. And I can't remember.
Was it Enrique? No.
No,
Not
Enrique.
Iglesias.
He speaks English, but whoever this guy, he was massive.
Yeah.
But he spoke absolutely no English. And so when I got on set, she was like, come hang out in the trailer with us. And it was him.
She spoke Spanish?
I don't think so. I don't know. They spoke love. So when I got in the trailer, I started trying to have oh, thanks, man. I'm excited to be here. And he was cool. He was like, yes. But she was a sweetheart.
I mean, I think that if you're making a piece of art, you can't know that it's going to be good. Because so many things could happen that it was good until it got to the edit. It was good until they remixed it. But if something is going bad, I think you can know.
Well, that's a good point. But you got to remember that I think that was probably one of my first times. No, it wasn't. One of my first times on a movie set as an actor. I had done like little sitcom things, but that was my first time on a movie set as an actor. And in my mind, I know that when I'm writing a song or producing a song, I may think that, man, that joint right there, that's going to blow people. As soon as they hear this, their minds are going to be blown. I can't wait to play this for people. And I'll play people that song.
No.
And they'll be like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But play that other one. And the other one is one that I spent probably like 4 minutes writing. And they'll be like, that's the shit right there. So when I'm in that movie atmosphere.
Well, what is that thing that the one you spent no time on is the one that connects, the one you thought does not connect?
I think it's that age-old thing of the knowledge that our creative statement comes from God or heaven or somewhere else, and the more we can get out of the way of that conduit, the stronger the song is going to be. And sometimes when you overthink it, you mess it up. So the songs, like sometimes I cry. It was one of those songs where it was like, Spend My Life. It was one of those songs where I was fantasizing about having that kind of love, and I just started to hear the wedding march. But so it's like, I think when you just get out of the way of your humanness and just channel that divine thing, that's when the undeniable.
That's the hardest thing.
And that you're right.
Get out of the way of yourself.
Yeah, it's like I still don't know how to meditate. Like people like,
but to be in service of the muse or the idea.
Exactly.
And to put the idea ahead of you.
Right.
And just to let it flow. That is hard.
It's very hard. And the fun part is I never really master it. So I think I'll be 80 years old, like getting really, really excited when I happen to stumble across that beautiful way of getting out of the way, and I let somebody hear something, and I can just see. It's funny when you play something. See, I'm too close to it, so I might play that song I spent 5 days on making sure everything was right, and that sounds amazing to me. But I'll play that song next to that other song that took 3 minutes, and I can see it on their face. I'm like, wow, there it is. It's a hit. Yeah. And the other one is like, yeah, that's cool. The strings are cool. Harmonies are cool. Play that other thing, it's like, meh.
But the other thing, because it was short, direct, right?
Probably.
You kind of like gave them your
Probably.
heart. When you gave them your brain, your thoughts, they're like, okay, you're hitting me up here. But when you hit me in the heart,
It comes down to, after being a musician for so many years, there's a lot of musical information. But it's not the information that hits the heart of the listener. It's the emotion. So it's like, I'm excited because, ooh, I got to use that. And I remember in that Steely Dan song, they did that little flip. I kind of did that flip in that one. So that's amazing. And they're like,
you remind me of something that Eric Leeds told me Prince used to say, which he got from Miles Davis. I don't pay you to play what you know. I pay you to play what you don't know. And it was like, can you play like a beginner?
whoa. See, that's
not
it.
badly.
Not bad.
But pure, like a beginner who doesn't have
All
the
that.
advanced ideas.
Right.
But can you communicate directly
That's
as
the
a
magic.
beginner would? And then you can really do something. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the magic. That's where the magic lives. Yeah. And getting out of the way is hard, man. Yeah.
It is. I think about Toni Morrison talking about listening to the characters and let them tell you what they want to do and who they are. And if you can really hear them and let them not impose,
Right.
but like,
what would they do? And sometimes that disappoints you. Sometimes it's like, oh man, don't do that. But you have to, yeah, no, absolutely.
what do you want to do professionally with the next 5 to 10 years?
I would like to start producing more film and TV.
Okay.
And it's like music is such a natural, money maker, and it's like an effortless thing for me. But I would love to be in a position where I can either produce, co-write, direct stories. Yeah, there's a few stories that I really, really want to tell, and I want to tell them the right way. I want to tell them honestly. And there's a certain amount of power and money that one needs to be able to have that kind of autonomy when telling a story in film or TV. But, the way music has evolved now, 20 years ago, I couldn't record a song if I didn't have a studio. I had to go pay $120 an hour. Now,
You can make it in your room.
you can make it in the room on a not even a laptop. Make it on your little iPhone. So I think it's getting a lot closer to that. Well, it already is with film and TV. I just need to carve out the time.
Wow. Amazing. Got any more stories you want to tell? You love telling stories.
I do love telling stories. I'll tell a story about the time Prince pulled me on stage in Milwaukee.
Come on.
Yo, man. So this was right after my first album came out. Like I said, I hadn't really blown up, but people kind of knew who I was. And I still lived in Milwaukee. Prince came to Milwaukee on his tour. I'm in the front row.
Which tour? Which album?
This must have been it wasn't Love Sexy. what was it? Was it Sign of the Times? Maybe it was Sign of the Times. Well, let's whatever it was around 90. No, it wasn't Sign of the Times. It was after that because it was around 90. What would have been like 96, 97, somewhere around there. What was that? Or whatever the hell that was.
It's After Symbol album, right?
Whatever it was, he was still playing. You know, he went through that thing where he really wasn't like playing the songs like with all the words and stuff that we all loved. He was still doing it.
Okay.
So I'm singing the words to everything, and he sees me in the audience, and he motions me to come on stage, and I get on stage, and this is one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me. So I'm standing on stage next to Prince in my hometown auditorium, packed, and Prince, he's playing the blues jam. I'm standing there like, what are you gonna do? Why am I here? And he's like, ladies and gentlemen,
Good Prince.
Give it up for Milwaukee's own Eric Benet. And I'm like, this nigga knows my name. Because I'm a Prince fan.
Right, for sure.
Dude, I froze. All I did, he wanted me to get on the sing. He wanted me to sing. And I'm like, what am I going? So I just grabbed the mic and said, give it up for Prince, y'all. He's great, right? And I put the mic back and I ran off the stage, dude. I was like, oh my God. And as I'm leaving, I'm thinking, you idiot. So I saw him later. at a little after thingy, and I was being all like, oh man, I just want to tell you, it was incredible. The show was incredible, and your music means so much to not just me, but musicians. And he's like, next time I bring you on stage, you better sing your ass off. And I was like, I know, I messed it up. So no, but he was cool.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah. I remember telling him, he said something else too. Because when I was going into this soliloquy because I vividly remember being like maybe 12 years old and hearing his first album. And I was pretty musically advanced at that age. So I remember hearing that album with Private Joy and all those other songs. And I remember thinking, this is blowing my mind because it doesn't really fit in punk rock. It's funky, but it ain't like no other funky music I ever heard.
Right.
So it just made a huge impact on me.
Right.
And so I think I went into something like that in my verbal kowtowing to him in that meeting. And he looked at me and he's like, man, I've been listening to you. You didn't need me. And that meant the world to me. Yeah, that was like when I met Luther. Luther said something very similar. We were doing like, the little, when you release a single and you do the radio promo in New York. And Luther was coming out of a studio and Luther was like, oh, Eric Benet, you're one that your voice is incredible right now. And it was like, I was literally almost in tears in that moment. It's like, what? So nobody couldn't tell me nothing for the next 5 years after that. I was like, shoot. Luther said, I'm the shit.
Gotta do it. Thank you.
Hey, man.
That was wonderful.
That was great.
Thank you so much.
Hey, if you like what you saw today, be sure to check out more Touré Show content right here. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for more Touré Show content every week.